There's something
really
very like Soviet about that. But Wesley needs to show some Soviet mental mode because he's got a 4-point deficit to make up, and 60 minutes of 3+1 is what we have now. And a bishop's opening, something new, very nice.
Yeah, bishop's opening is not one you see every day, but it's a fun move order, especially for Blitz. It just means you develop the bishop to c4 on move 2, for those who don't speak opening encyclopedia. But we've now transposed into some sort of Vienna game with the knight coming to c3. The Vienna is defined as where you put the knight on c3 before the kingside knight, again, for those who don't speak opening encyclopedia. But now, guess what? In the end, it doesn't matter because we've completely transposed to a 4 knights, Danya.
Gosh,
like,
that's the thing. That's the thing about the bishop's opening. It's like Newark Airport or Frankfurt Airport, as I like to say on my stream. It's like, how often do you go there in order to remain in Frankfurt or Newark? Rarely, right? You fly off to some other destination. So there are these transpositional openings, and it's always cool to see how it transposes from one opening to another, and then finally it kind of settles in on a traditional 4 knights symmetrical position as Wesley goes for the bishop pair. Typical move there, knight a4. And I like this for white. I think white's position is pleasant, but Magnus clearly knows what he's doing.
And I'm going to call that out because you said Wesley needed to get up on the clock and set the tone. Right now he's down on the clock. Magnus seems to know what he's doing. Of course, it's very early. It's literally, 45 seconds into game 1, so we're not going to overthink it. But Wesley played an interesting move order, but he needs to show it. He needs to prove and get an advantage as we get to the middle game.
And we're probably going to see Magnus deploying his light squared bishop to e6 and posing Wesley with another decision. Okay, rook e8 to start. And when will Wesley take on b6? That's a big question. I wouldn't procrastinate too long, but the player's kind of just making these standard Italian-esque moves. And there's our answer, bishop b5 by Wesley.
He doesn't
preparing.
He doesn't
take on
want
c6.
Going to take on c6 and double the pawns the old-fashioned way. If you play a6, I'll take here and double the pawns that way, probably before saving the bishop, I would imagine. Although maybe not. Okay, maybe you'll actually just take here and not take the bit. Danya, you're the grandmaster. What should we do here?
It's like you can get the burger with the mayonnaise and without the lettuce or with the lettuce. It's like you're making your own little Chipotle bowl on the queen side.
Okay, he decides what I thought, but
he wants the guac.
Yeah, he wants the guac. Give me the guac. Hey, we got a guac over here in order for 2. Meaning he traded both sets of minors there. Then he plays d4 to change the structure, and now I kind of like the position with d6 being weak, but at some point black is going to play d5 anyway.
And it's possible to play it now. d5, e5 is Wesley's intended response. And then the knight could drop back to h7, very underrated square, or move forward to h5 in order to clamp down on the dark squares. Magnus pushes a different pawn. I think he wants to open up a little window for his bishop on c6, and he is still preparing to push d5. But Wesley could beat him to the punch and stick his c-pawn on c4, which is why Magnus just put his bishop on e6.
Yes. Instead of c6.
Yes,
I love
Danny.
That. yes.
You know, Robert Hubner put his bishop on e6. Robert Hubner put his bishop on e6 in the 1969 Lone Pine.
Yeah. You know, Robert Hubner was one of the most crafty gentlemen I've ever met. Yeah, exactly. He knew how to put the binder pieces on all the right squares, and he always seemed to have the tactics go his way.
And then, just when the game reached its critical point, he would push his glasses up, and in that thick German accent of his, he would say, "This is a very good bishop." Queen f6.
And what's funny? Knight f4. Did you just blunder queen f6? OMGs or snaps.
Forktown population, Wesley's rook on a1, and Morgtown population, Wesley's rook on a1.
Nothing like being ripped out of an amazing Yasser Seirawan impersonation experience to someone blundering. I was like in a trance, and then before you know it, I got a blunder on the board.
Knight takes c6, queen takes a1, Danny, and if you pick up the knight on d5, Magnus picks up the knight on e6, and then he can trade queens by lifting his queen back to d4. This is just lost right off the bat.
Oh, knight f4. That is not something that Robert Hubner would have been happy about.
No.
Exactly.
Robert Hubner would resign here, and Wesley might as well.
Yeah, it is a fork. The piece on f4 is double attacked. The rook on a1 has a single attacker, but nothing you can do about it. And that is what happens when you put your pieces on loose squares in the open board. Wesley scratching his head, frustrated with his play right now, as we can understand. That is unfortunate. Oh, man. And, yeah.
I said it at the start, Danny. I mean, of all the ways that you can lose to Magnus as Wesley resigns, that's it. You just lose